Hello chess fans, today we are going to see an amazing game by Steinitz against Selman in 1885. This game was an absolute masterclass by Steinitz as he dominated Selman in the middle game. So let's start the game. The game started e4, e6, d4, d5, knight c3. This is a normal variation. This is not the advanced variation which everybody plays, but this is the classical variation. After knight f6, e5, knight fd7. This is the Steinitz variation recently played in game 1 of the World Championship, uh, where Ding won against Mukesh playing black. f4, c5, d takes c5, bishop takes c5. Now this variation is very rich in theory and very complicated because there are many subtleties here. As here you don't follow the main plan of action which you do normally in the advanced French. So knight f3, a6, bishop d3, knight c6, and queen e2. Here basically the idea will be to play bishop e3 and then exchange the bishop and then short castle. Knight b4, trying to exchange the knight for the bishop, therefore getting rid of the bishop pair for white. And now bishop d2. Steinitz doesn't care about the bishop pair, and that is for good reason. If black takes here, then there are two options. Here we can play queen takes d3 or c takes d3. Both can be good. C takes d3 can build a center, queen takes d3 keeps the structure intact. But there's really no good reason to play knight takes d3 now. So b5, knight d1. Uh, Probably Stenitz's idea was to play knight f2 or knight e3, rerouting the knight, and now finally black takes on d3 and c takes d3. As I said, Stanitz wants to build a center. Now queen b6, preventing the idea of d4 for now. But now b4, and now the bishop has to move somewhere else because if you play bishop d4, then we'll take queen takes d4, and well, now we can play rook c1, which is followed by bishop e3. Actually bishop e3 hangs upon, but rook c7 threats are in the vicinity here, and white can also just trade the queens and play d4 and have a perfectly a good position. So a3, f5 is played, and now the F pawn break is a really elemental theme in the French defense if you think about it. In many variations, the pawn goes to f6 or f5 to either uh, get the attack rolling on the king side or to break white center. Here it goes to f5. Um, it could also have gone to f6, but went to f5. It's uh, it's like plan of action is unclear. So rook c1 and now bishop b7. Black just develops a piece. Black is preparing to short castle and then rook a c8, and black will be in a perfectly fine position. But now comes the bishop e3. And now suddenly white is a little bit better because white is a whole bit better because now the tempos just come running because see, queen d8 is played, which is forced, and then knight d4. E6 pawn is attacked, so you need to play knight f8, and now you can't castle for the time being. Short castle, and now black does the dubious decision of playing h5. Like white can launch an attack on black, and yet black is launching an attack on white. This is obviously uh, completely better for white, maybe even winning. So what went wrong? So here it was a perfectly fine position. F5, I said that it is an unclear move trying to spice up the play, but White is now a little bit better, and the thing that brought it to doom was bishop b7. Now you just let white get too many tempos. White can get three tempos while your pieces are being undeveloped. So that is really bad. Black should have castled straight away when he had the chance. If black just castled, nothing would be wrong for black. But black played bishop to b7. And now after bishop e3, queen d8, knight d4, white has a really good position. But after short castle h5, now we can see Steiner's genius. He firstly begins with developing his knight, nothing crazy, and now king f7. So the king officially cannot be castled unless you artificial castle. Artificial castle means just to do something like knight g6, rook f8, and then king g8. But that takes too many tempos. And now knight b1. Here the maneuvering comes in place. Now what do you think Steinitz wants to achieve with this knight? See, if you want to improve your middle game play and your positional play, there's one really good tip. Uh, if you have no plan in a position like this, let's say you're white here, what do you do in this position if you have no plan, no clue? Even I also had no clue in this position what to do when I was trying to solve this game myself. I used one thing, that what is my worst piece right now? My worst piece is the c3 knight. So how can I improve that knight? Well, a square like a5 or c5 is really good for the knight. So I should maneuver my knight there. So I will improve my knight by knight b1, knight d2, knight b3, knight a5. This is the mechanism you need to go if you don't have any plan. Generally, this is a really good mechanism for getting a plan. If you are if you are in a dynamic position, then the thing may be anything else, but in a static position this works. See, now white's knight is on a5 and the play is really getting good for white. Now takes and rook c1. So white has, after queen b8 and queen c2, conquered over the c file. The idea is queen c7, and after queen c7 there is no stopping white's pieces. So bishop d8 is played to stop queen c7, but now knight c6. The idea of knight c6 is to just like get the queen on the c6 square, and then the e6 square is really weak. That was the bad part of playing f5 in the opening. So queen b7, uh, it's unclear about what the idea is. I think the idea is that after knight takes d8, rook takes d8, queen c6, the pieces will be exchanged. That's maybe the basic idea. So after queen b7, it still takes, but here there's a difference. The c7 square is left undefended. So now Steinitz comes in with queen c7, and now there's no stopping him. So queen b8, bishop f2. Worst piece first. What is Steiner's worst piece? The e3 bishop. He develops it, and now bishop h4 is the last threat due to queen takes d7. Uh, the threat of queen takes d7. So queen b6 is played, so that if bishop h4, then the d4 knight is hanging. Now what do we do? Well, if you try and get some discover attack with knight takes f5, there's queen takes c7, and now if even if you play knight h6 check, then king g7, and then still you are losing a knight. But you can work around this by rook takes c7, king takes h6, bishop h4, but it isn't really worth diving into that much complications, because here uh, there can be problems. Again, we can solve things much easier with knight f3. Now if you take, which black has to do, and after rook takes c7, bishop h4 is a massive threat, knight g5 check is a massive threat, and black is just completely losing. Notice how the material is equal, but the sheer activity of pieces is so great. So king e8, knight g5 attacking the e6 pawn, and after knight f8, bishop c5. Idea is to play bishop takes f8, king takes f8, knight takes e6 check, knight d7, and now bishop d6. Zugzwang. This is what you call sheer domination, ladies and gentlemen. Because if black moves the knight, then wherever black moves the knight, rook e7 check, king f8, knight takes e6 check is gone. And if black moves the bishop is gone. If black moves the rook to b8, rook takes d7, and you lose a knight. So what can black move at this point? Uh, if black moves any pawns, knight takes e6, and if black moves, black can't even move the king. Well, this was the game. So what we learned from this game is the worst piece first method. When you don't have any plan, any clue on how to improve your position, just pick the worst piece and see how you can develop it. It is a really useful thing to do. It's not like a shortcut or something. It is a really deep positional aspect. So this was the game. I hope you like this video, and don't forget to click the subscribe button and the bell icon. Thank you.